Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back.
I know it's been a while since we've had any videos, but we're going to kind of give you guys an update on where we're at, how things have been, and what's been going on the last 3 months.
Yeah, so stick with us to this video while we talk about getting our move on to New York State.
Yep.
I was gonna say city.
Don't care about no gold, no one else to hit my phone up. None of that pretentious life. No, 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 don't need no pills to get high. There's no doubt in my mind. Your love, it is all that
I need. All right, so as you guys have noticed, we haven't been posting as many videos lately, and I honestly only gave a little bit of updates on social media, so majority of people in our personal life know what happened, but I don't think anybody out there really knows what happened. So I took a job in upstate New York, specifically Albany area, and so we packed our bags and left Orlando to come explore for this new job opportunity. So
yeah, it's been an experience to say the least. We lived in New York before we came back to Florida for a while. So we lived in Syracuse for a while, about 4 years or so, 5 years. And so that was a nightmare of our existence, but we're back in New York.
We swore we would never, ever move back to New York, but it happened. So never say that you'll never do something, because it'll probably happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we moved in the dead of winter, which I don't suggest for anybody. That was definitely interesting. Going from a tropical climate to a not tropical climate in the middle of January was rough. It wasn't that bad when we got here though. It was probably 50, 60 degrees the day we moved in.
I would actually take the other perspective. I think it was a good thing that we moved in the middle, so we didn't have to witness the whole thing. For those who live in the cold, for those in Florida, you're not going to understand this at all. And trust me, I was a Floridian before I moved to Syracuse. So when you move in the cold, at the beginning of winter, people are like, oh yeah, I'm inside, I'm doing my knitting or quilting or puzzles or all the million things that you can do inside read. But about a month in, they just want to kill each other. And you'll see them out in public spaces and they're just angry and frustrated, and understandably because it's super cold, but that's kind of the environment. And we came into that angry, frustrated period. But for us, we didn't have to deal with it that long because it's already a little bit starting to warm up, and we're super happy about that. But we didn't have to deal with that full winter thing. We missed a couple snow, so we only had one really big snow so far.
And we only got
good.
a couple inches, so
yeah.
Winter actually hasn't been that bad for us, so it's actually been good. Which is good for me because I drive all over the place, and I really don't want to have to drive in the snow if I don't have to. But yeah, so it actually hasn't been too bad being here. We've had our windows open actually the last couple days because it's been in the 50s and 60s. So
during the day.
During the day, yeah. At night it definitely drops. But we've been trying to enjoy what little sunshine we do get, because the sun doesn't come out a whole lot compared to Florida. So if you're ever moving from Florida to anywhere else in the country, just realize you will not see the sun as much. There's a reason why it's called the Sunshine State.
Yeah, we didn't really get that, especially me. Prior to us moving to Syracuse many, many years ago, I had never actually seen snow before. So our move to Syracuse was a huge environmental weather shock for me. And there's a lot of things that you take for granted as a Floridian that you really should enjoy. Go outside when we can and enjoy those beaches and the sun, because really other places just don't get those opportunities.
Yeah. So another interesting thing that happened, it took us 2 days to get here, because it's about 16 hours from Orlando to Albany, and so we stopped kind of halfway in North Carolina, so that was nice.
Yeah,
kind of broke up the trip.
Yeah.
And then when we got north of Washington, D.C., it was toll after toll after toll after toll, and I don't remember that when we lived in Syracuse the first time. I don't remember having massive tolls just to get anywhere in New York State. So I think that may have been something that happened in the last 10 years, because it's been 10 years since we lived in New York State.
Yeah, you folks from Orlando are kind of familiar with it. You guys have tolls everywhere. Which is, maybe they got it from this up north philosophy. But the first day of driving was amazing. From Florida to North Carolina, it was long, and it was driving, so it's not super exciting, but it was a nice drive. We got to see cities as well as a lot of like country driving. So that was really cool. But once we got past that, it was just between our map. I think part of it was Google Maps was taking us through like all the major cities. Like we could have reached out and touched the Capitol building and stuff. For some odd reason, it took us almost right through DC, which to me seems crazy, and to people I've talked to, it also seems crazy. So there must be other routes we could have taken, as well as we literally drove right across the river from New York City and stuff.
We went through New Jersey. We went through New York City, like the outskirts of New York City.
It was a very, very strange path that the Google Maps took us on. But and a ton of tolls.
Yeah.
They didn't really cost as much as I thought they were going to, because when we started hitting them, we were hitting, I think it was Maryland, had tolls, and it was like almost every mile it was like a $3 or $4 toll, and I was like, oh my gosh, we are never going to make it there on the money that we've taken out.
We're like, it's going to be $200.
And luckily, like New York State was only like $20 for all the miles.
For both cars, for both cars.
So it wasn't too bad. Once we got past like Maryland, once the smaller states, for some reason the smaller states seem to charge a lot more than the bigger states.
Yeah, you're only going like 3 or 4 miles, and then there's a toll, and we were sweating bullets for a minute. We're like, okay, we're gonna have to get off. But at that point, we were like 2.5 hours from our destination, and if we had taken a detour, it would have added an extra hour. And at that point, we were already on the road for 12 hours, and we were like tired.
Yeah, we were exhausted.
We were tired. Driving, it takes a lot out of you, even though you're not doing a lot physically. We were tired. And even Loki, who never sleeps in the car, she actually slept like this entire road trip, which partly probably because she's getting older and she's an old lady, but she's usually like up and like watching like the entire time, and she was tuckered out for sure. But we made it safe and sound. We got into town that night and the temperature dropped that night, and I remember getting out of the car and like freezing. My hands went numb trying to get our suitcases out, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're back in the cold. But the next day we got our keys to our new apartment. That part actually went pretty smooth. I have to say, we didn't hit a lot of hiccups other than trying to get the deposit money from the banks, because the banks were just being ridiculous, but that's another story for another day. So we moved in, we got our keys, and another thing, so we use movers to move all of our stuff here. So that is a challenge that I don't think I will ever want to go down that road again, or at least not, at least do my research a little bit more. I thought I had done enough research going into this, and I thought I had all of my ducks in a row, but they decided to change the terms of their agreement halfway through our move. They literally like held our stuff hostage until we paid them in their terms. And then when they got here, it was interesting as well.
Yeah, it was a horrible situation. From the moment they took our stuff, our contract said we could pay in certain ways, and then as soon as they had our stuff, they wouldn't honor those pieces of the agreement. They wouldn't honor the fact that they gave us a bid and ended up being way over that bid, even though we had less stuff than we told them we were going to take. We actually ended up trimming, I would say, probably about 30% of our stuff out because we just didn't want it anymore. We got rid of it. We sold it. We didn't bring as much here as this is probably the lightest move we've ever had, and yet it was still, from a cubic space perspective, they're acting like it was so big, and it wasn't. There was no way this would have been more than like a small or medium budget truck, and they were charging us like it was a large budget truck that they had to fit in. So it was like insane, the amount of stuff. And then the people were not friendly at all at the organization. We were actually still in Florida. We were going to have our last day and enjoy Disney, actually. We were actually in Disney Park right outside of It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. We were actually, I just saw that show. We walk outside, and then we had to deal with them at Disney, and that blew up our whole last day in Orlando, because then we had to go home, get our contract, and read our contract to them on the phone, and they still would not believe that it was the truth. It was such a horrible experience, and these people are some of the worst I've ever dealt with. The scum of the earth is what I would consider them, because they would not do anything. They would not help us. They just took advantage of us, and they threatened to keep our stuff if we didn't pay, even though we were already paying them. It was just an insane experience. And then when we actually got here,
we were told, so I got a call. We left town, I believe it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday we left Orlando. So on Saturday morning, I got a call from the movers saying that they were leaving with our stuff and that they would be there tomorrow, which was Saturday or Sunday. And I was like, well, we're not going to be there until Sunday night, maybe Monday morning at the earliest, because we hadn't left yet. And they were like, okay, well, and then they gave me a different balance that would be due, stating that it was like due in cash. It was pretty much the remaining balance, which was I think like $1,400 or something like that. And I was like, no, we just paid it. I've already talked with the finance people. So I called the finance people, and of course their offices were closed, and I had to basically reach out and text a bunch of people, got them to email me and say everything was okay. So we took a little bit of a breath, got in the car, drove up here, got our keys, and then all of a sudden on Monday morning I get a call from the movers saying that they're like 2 hours away.
You didn't get a call, you called them.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I called to see where they were.
Right.
And then they were like, oh, your stuff hasn't left yet. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I called them to see where they were, since they had called me before we left, to see like what the status was. And they were like, oh, well, your stuff hasn't left yet. We don't have, you know, any invoices. Like, apparently they didn't track anything. And so I hung up with them because they were going to look into it. And I want to say it was probably like 20 or 30 minutes later, the movers called me and said they were 2 hours away, which apparently they were somewhere in New York City area.
Yeah, and this seemed to be a pretty consistent thing with them, even when they came to pick our stuff up. So we paid a deposit in December. They were supposed to come early January to pick our stuff up on a date. They were like, oh, well, we can't guarantee which date it will be. It'll be a Thursday or a Friday, basically, is what they said. And so we're like, okay. We'll give them that, but they're supposed to give us 24-hour notice. So we're like, that's fine with us. We called literally the day before they picked it up, which was a Tuesday. We're like, hey, we still haven't heard anything. We just want to check. Oh, no, it's not coming tomorrow. You're all good. And then probably 4 hours later at 6 p.m., they gave us a call and said, hey, we're coming to pick your stuff up tomorrow at 8 a.m. So it needs to be ready. And we still had some final pieces that we had to get done. So we spent that entire night making sure that everything was packed, making sure that everything was labeled, wrapped.
Everything.
Everything.
They didn't have to do anything to our stuff.
We actually took blankets and covered the TV boxes and the paintings, the posters. Everything was done by us and wrapped, because we got plastic wrap too to make sure that everything was wrapped for them too. And of course they didn't show up till about 2 o'clock the next day, so they were late then too. But it's the same thing they did at pickup. They called us on a Saturday, tell us we're going to be there Sunday, when they weren't supposed to be there till Wednesday of that week. And then we had to like rush around to figure it out, and then they're claiming that, like Nacy said, that we still owed them more money than we did, but the driver wouldn't do anything to verify that. He's like, it's not my problem, that's your problem.
Yeah.
You have to get the information for me. It's like, but it's the company you work for. Like, what are we supposed to do?
It was so chaotic and stressful. So we had to scramble because we thought we had time to go get the rest of the cash to pay them, because that was the other thing. We were told that we could pay by credit card. They ended up changing the terms and saying we could only pay cash, so that changed a lot of things. So we had to scramble and go find a bank at the last second.
After they picked up our stuff, by the way.
After they already had our stuff.
And signed a contract that said differently.
Yeah, and the contract specifically says that we can pay by credit card. And they basically held our stuff hostage. I mean, I was in tears in Magic Kingdom, which should never happen, but I have a terrible last memory of being in Magic Kingdom. So they literally made our lives a living nightmare for about a week and a half that they had our stuff, like this whole like transition. So fast forward, we're now here at our new apartment in New York. we know nobody in Albany, essentially. I mean, I have some friends still in Syracuse, but as far as the Albany area, I know nobody.
Yeah.
And so we get the keys, we get inside, they give us the call saying they're going to be 2 hours away. We now have to scramble to go get the rest of the money. We thought we had another 24 hours to make it to the bank, so we scramble downtown trying to find a bank. We get the money, we come back, they get here, and then they rolled up in a budget truck. So that was very interesting. Supposedly this company owns and operates all its vehicles. I don't believe that they own and operate budget trucks. So they backed in to our cul-de-sac and started to unload the stuff, but they wanted to unload into our garage. Sorry, you need to bring it into the house. So our
contract actually says that they're supposed to set things up, put it right where it's supposed to go. I mean, it's literally in the contract. Reassemble furniture, everything.
White glove service, essentially.
They were refusing to even bring it up any they were just refusing to bring it up. They just wanted to drop everything off in the garage, and then we were going to be responsible for putting it in the house.
So we finally got them to bring it into the house. They start to unload the stuff, and
But they would only bring it into one room. So they decided to bring it in the house, but they would only actually bring our stuff to our living room. They wouldn't move it anywhere else.
they didn't want to bring anything up the second set of stairs into the loft, which really wouldn't have been that much stuff. It was only a few things. And then just getting them to put some of the stuff into the master bedroom, which is downstairs, was like pulling teeth. So they started unloading the truck, and they're like basically like chucking it up our stairs. They didn't use a dolly.
Yeah, we have some footage we'll probably put in too of them actually just like, they would take stuff up, they would just slam it on the ground. You should see, we have these bookshelves from IKEA, if you've ever seen like an IKEA bookshelf, or Target makes them too, but they're like this really heavy wood that like you could literally drive into a car and it wouldn't do anything. We have 3 of those, 2 of them. One's just completely decimated, and you'll see that in the video, and we'll put some pictures too. The other one was like wobbly now, so it's not going anywhere ever again. We're going to use it until we move, obviously, but they just decimated our stuff. Our dresser had like pieces, like French pieces on the end. They slam it on the ground, flip it, slam it on the ground, flip it to get their sheets that they had added to ours on there, and it just destroyed the pieces of wood. I mean, it's like they didn't even care.
And not even just that, so the pieces of furniture that were wrapped in cloth, i.e. the bookshelves and some of the other equipment, the couch, were actually damp and wet. So clearly all of our stuff had been outside in the rain, and it had actually rained, I believe, Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night it actually rained somewhere like along our trip. Like when we stopped in North Carolina, there was like a huge rainstorm that came through. So clearly our stuff was outside in a rain like somewhere around like Saturday afternoon, because it didn't rain Sunday at all. So yeah, so our stuff came wet, which was a little disturbing. Majority, I would say probably 85% of our boxes were either completely destroyed or chipped, or they were like warped because they put too much weight on them. So those boxes will never be used again. We use like the heavy duty Rubbermaid boxes, just because we figured, hey, we'll try and put our stuff in the least destructible boxes we possibly can.
Yeah.
They also, oh, go ahead.
Some of our boxes came back without tops on them. They vanished. Other boxes came back with the wrong top on them taped. Like we had a clear box that had a clear top. When it came here, it had like this gray top on it from one of our other boxes.
That didn't even fit it.
That never made it here. Well, who knows where that gray box went. And then they just like tape over top of them. Most of them are already taped. So there were boxes where we'd actually get into, and there were pieces of the other broken boxes that they had put into the box and then retaped. Like, it just takes words out of your mouth. It
was unbelievable.
What happened? Yeah, it's just utterly amazing. And like the delivery people, we'd mention it, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's no problem, boss. It's that's what insurance is for." "Oh, no problem, boss." If they're throwing something on the floor, that's what insurance are for. And I'm like, man, we paid you to take care of our stuff, and you're not even trying in front of us. I can't imagine what they were doing behind our backs when they're actually moving it, because clearly it moved from it to at least 3 trucks that we know of. Who knows how many more they took it out and moved it between, that they just beat stuff up. We lost a ton of stuff. I mean,
yeah, there's about 3 boxes, I believe, based on the spreadsheet and the numbers, that did not make it from our calculations, because we tried to take pictures of majority of everything. We did get the sheet that they gave us where they labeled every box with their own label system. So based on that, there's 3 boxes that are missing.
We didn't get it. We actually took pictures of it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give us
a copy
sheets.
of it.
Yeah.
So after they finally got everything in the house, and like I said, they kind of threw everything in. They didn't really give a crap about our stuff. They were very dismissive. I'm not somebody who doesn't like to not tip people who do service, because I think you're gonna work hard, you deserve a tip. If you do a great job, you deserve a tip, regardless of what happened before you. So we were kind of hopeful that things would go great, and unfortunately they didn't. So I chose not to tip them because